It Follows is a 2014 American supernatural psychological horror film written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. A 19-year-old college student who is pursued by a supernatural entity after a sexual encounter. It Follows debuted at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival and was later purchased by RADiUS-TWC for distribution. After a successful limited release beginning on March 13, 2015, the film had a wide release on March 27, 2015. It received acclaim from critics. The Rotten Tomatoes consensus calls it smart, original, and, above all, terrifying. It grossed $23.3 million worldwide against a $1.3 million budget. The story begins with a wide shot of a street and no sound. Next, there's a girl, Annie, who dies by the ocean. The story suddenly shifts to the main character, an Oakland University student named Jaime J. Height, who is in her backyard pool. From there, Jaime goes on a date with her new boyfriend, Hugh. That night, Hugh points out a young girl in the back of the theater. When Jaime says she cannot see the girl, Hugh becomes unnerved and asks that they leave. On another date, Hugh and Jaime have sex in his car, but afterwards, he incapacitates Jaime with chloroform, and she wakes up tied to a wheelchair in the Packard plant, where Hugh explains that she will be pursued by an entity that only they can see and which can take the appearance of any person. If it catches Jaime, it will kill her and pursue the previous person to have passed it on, Hugh. After they see a naked woman walking toward them, Hugh drives Jaime home and flees. The next day, the police cannot find the naked woman or Hugh, who was living under a false identity. At school, Jaime sees an old woman in a hospital gown walking towards her, invisible to others. Jaime's sister, Kelly, and her friends, Paul Bolduin and Yura Davis, agree to help and spend the night in Jaime and Kelly's house. That night, someone smashes the kitchen window. Paul investigates but sees no one. Inside the house, Jaime sees a disheveled, urinating, half-naked woman walking toward her and runs upstairs to the others, who cannot see the entity. When a tall man enters the bedroom, Jaime flees the house. Her friends catch up to her at a nearby playground. With the help of their neighbor, Greg Hannigan, the group discovers Hugh's real name, Jeff Redmond, and traces him to his address. Jeff's mother answers the door and Jaime realizes that the naked woman she had seen coming for her in the Packard plant was in the form of Mrs. Redmond. Jeff explains that the entity began pursuing him after a one-night stand and that Jaime can pass it on by having sex with someone else. Greg drives Jaime, Kelly, Yara, and Paul to his family's lake house and teaches Jaime to shoot a revolver. The entity arrives in the form of Yara and attacks Jaime on the lakefront. Jaime's friends ward it off by breaking a chair over its body, and Jaime shoots it in the head, but it recovers unharmed and attacks Jaime again, this time taking the form of a boy who lives next door to Jaime. She flees in Greg's car, crashes into a cornfield, and wakes up in a hospital with a broken arm. Greg has sex with Jaime in the hospital, as he does not believe the entity exists. Days later, Jaime sees the entity in the form of Greg walking towards Greg's house, smashing a window at Greg's house and entering. Jaime tries to warn the real Greg by telephone, but he does not answer. On a beach, Jaime sees 3 young men on a boat. She then undresses and walks into the water. Back home, Paul, eager to take the risk, offers Jaime the opportunity to pass it on to him, but she refuses. The group plans to kill the entity by luring it into a swimming pool and dropping electrical devices into the water. Jaime, waiting in the pool, spots the entity and realizes it has taken the appearance of her deceased father. Instead of entering the pool, it throws the devices at her. Firing at an invisible target, Paul accidentally wounds Yara, but shoots the entity in the head, and once covered by a sheet, it is shot once more, causing it to fall into the pool. As it pulls Jaime underwater, Paul shoots it again, and Jaime escapes. She approaches the pool and sees it filling with blood. Jaime and Paul have sex. That night, Paul drives through town, passing prostitutes. Later, Jaime and Paul walk down the street holding hands, as a figure walks behind them.